Chapter 5. Mr. Brownlow. When Oliver arrived at Mr. Brownlow's house, he was very ill. He almost died. For many days he lay in a clean bed in a sunny room. Mr. Brownlow's housekeeper took care of him. Her name was Mrs. Bedwin. She and Mr. Brownlow were very kind to the little boy. There was a picture of a lady near Oliver's bed.
"What a beautiful lady,"
he said.
"but her eyes are very sad."
When Mr. Brownlow came to see Oliver, he said,
"Mrs. Bedwin, look at the picture on the wall and look at Oliver. The head, the eyes, the mouth, they are the same. I can't believe this."
He looked at Oliver and then looked at the picture many times. When Oliver was better, he sat on a chair near his bed. Mr. Brownlow had tears in his eyes when he looked at him. A long time passed, and Oliver was finally well. Mr. Brownlow and Mrs. Bedwin loved little Oliver. Mr. Brownlow bought him new clothes. For the first time in his life, Oliver was happy. He liked his new home very much. One day, Mr. Brownlow asked Oliver,
"Do you like it here?"
Oliver said,
"I'm very happy, sir. You are so kind to me. I want to stay here. Please don't send me away."
Mr. Brownlow said,
"Of course you can stay here."
Mr. Brownlow showed him his library. Oliver was interested in the books.
"I want to send you to a good school, Oliver. Then you can read these books."
One sunny day, Mr. Brownlow said,
"Oliver, can you please take these books to the bookshop? Give this £5 note to the man in the shop."
"I am happy to do this for you,"
said Oliver, smiling. He took the books and walked happily down the street. Nancy was standing in a small street. When he walked into the small street, Nancy saw him. She put her arms around him.
"Oh, my dear brother, I found you. You must come home with me now. You are a bad boy."
Oliver cried.
"Help! Help!"
Just then Bill Sikes arrived. He said,
"It's young Oliver. Come home with us. Mother is waiting for us."
Sikes and Nancy pulled Oliver to Fagin's shop. When they arrived at Fagin's shop, he said,
"Oliver, I'm happy to see you."
Charlie Bates took Oliver's new clothes. Sikes took the £5 note, and Fagin took the books.
"You can keep me here all my life,"
cried Oliver.
"but please return these books and the £5 note to Mr. Brownlow, please. He mustn't think I am a thief."
"Oh, yes, he must,"
said Fagin. Everyone laughed at Oliver. Oliver jumped up and ran to the door. Fagin hit Oliver with a big stick. Nancy pulled the stick out of Fagin's hand. She threw it in the fire.
"Don't hit the boy again,"
she said. Sikes pushed Nancy to the floor, and Fagin laughed. Then they locked Oliver in a dark room. It was night time at Mr. Brownlow's house. He and Mrs. Bedwin waited for Oliver all night, but he never came home. Mr. Brownlow was very sad and worried. Where was Oliver? Chapter 6. The Crime. One rainy night, Fagin went to see Bill Sikes.
"I want to talk about that big house outside London. There are many precious things to steal. It's perfect for us."
He was very excited.
"Yes, it's a very rich house,"
said Sikes.
"but it will be difficult. The house is completely closed at night. There's one small window at the back. It's easy to open, but only a small boy can enter."
"Oliver is the boy for you, Sikes,"
said Fagin.
"He must stop working for his bread."
The next morning, Oliver found a new pair of shoes near his bed. He was very happy.
Tonight you must go to see Bill Sikes.
said Fagin.
Why?
Asked Oliver.
Sikes can tell you. Be careful, Oliver. He's a cruel man. Do what he tells you.
Fagin said. Oliver was afraid. He prayed God to help him. Nancy came and took Oliver to Sikes.
Be good and quiet. Give me your hand.
She said. When Sikes saw Oliver, he put a pistol to his head.
Do what I say, or I'll shoot you. Do you hear me?
Oliver heard him and was terrified. He didn't say a word.
Now, come with me,
said Sikes. Sikes and Oliver walked together in the cold fog. After some time, they arrived in the country. They met another thief called Toby Crackit. Oliver walked between the two thieves. Soon they climbed a wall and saw a big country house. The night was cold and foggy. When Oliver saw the country house, he understood their terrible plan. He fell to his knees and said,
Please let me go. I don't want to steal. I prefer to die here.
Toby Crackit put his hand over Oliver's mouth. Sikes opened a small window at the back of the house. Then he put a pistol to Oliver's head and whispered,
Listen, go in through this small window. Then go to the front door. Open it, and we will enter the house. Remember, I'm watching you, and I have a pistol.
Oliver went in through the window. He wanted to warn the family, so he started going up the stairs. Sikes cried,
Come back!
Suddenly there was a light. Oliver saw two men at the top of the stairs. There was a loud noise, a light, and some smoke from a pistol. Oliver felt a terrible pain. He was terrified and ran back to the small window. Sikes put his arm through the window. He pulled Oliver quickly through the window.
Oliver is hurt,
said Sikes.
Look at the blood.
He carried Oliver to the garden wall. Oliver was very cold, and then he saw and heard no more. Hurry! said Toby Crackit. The men and their dogs are following us! Sikes left Oliver at the garden wall. He ran away with Toby Crackit. Two men and their dogs followed them. They were servants of the country house.
Do you see anyone, Giles?
Asked Mr. Brittles.
It's too dark. I can't see anything,
said Mr. Giles. The two men returned to the country house. They didn't see Oliver's body. Oliver stayed on the cold, wet ground all night. Chapter 7. A New Home. The next morning it was raining. Oliver woke up. His left arm was covered with blood. He got up slowly and tried to walk. He saw the country house and thought,
Perhaps the people in that house can help me.
He knocked at the door and fell to the ground. Mr. Giles and Mr. Brittles opened the door.
A boy,
said Mr. Giles. Then he saw the blood on Oliver's clothes.
Look, it's one of the thieves.
He told the ladies,
Here he is. I shot him, madam. Do you want to see him?
Oh, not now,
said Rose Maylie. She was a beautiful girl of 17. She had blue eyes and a kind smile. She lived with her aunt, Mrs. Maylie.
Take him upstairs to Mr. Giles's room. Mr. Brittles, please go to town and ask Dr. Losberne to come immediately.
When Dr. Losberne arrived, he said, What a terrible thing! Thieves in the night! Are you ladies well?
Yes, thank you. But please look at the boy upstairs. He's hurt.
Of course, Dr. Losberne said. He stayed upstairs a long time. Finally, he came down and said, Ladies, please come upstairs with me. Rose and Mrs. Maylie followed the doctor. They had a big surprise. They did not see a bad criminal in bed. They saw a little boy sleeping. They looked at him in silence. Rose sat down near the bed. Oliver smiled in his sleep.
"This poor boy cannot be a thief,"
said Mrs. Maylie.
"He's so young,"
said Rose, with tears in her eyes. In the evening, Oliver woke up after a long sleep. He told them the story of his sad life. He also told them about kind Mr. Brownlow. He spoke slowly and softly because he was very weak. He had a high temperature. He was ill for a very long time. Rose and Mrs. Maylie took care of him. They were gentle and kind. Oliver slowly got better. He went for walks with Rose and Mrs. Maylie. He listened to Rose playing the piano and singing. He listened to her reading aloud. Oliver helped in the garden. After some time, a kind old man gave him lessons every day. 3 months passed, and Oliver was very happy. He loved Rose and Mrs. Maylie with all his heart.
What can I do for you?
Oliver asked Rose and Mrs. Maylie.
You were so kind to me when I was ill.
Rose smiled and said,
"We are very happy you are here with us."
Mrs. Maylie and Rose took Oliver to their country cottage. It was a lovely place. There were trees and flowers everywhere. Oliver became strong and healthy.
The country is very different from the noisy city. I love the country,
Oliver said. After 3 months, they returned home. One afternoon, Oliver sat at his desk near the window. He studied his lessons. Suddenly, he saw 2 men at the window.
Oh no, it's Fagin and another man,
Oliver thought. Fagin was with a strange man called Monks. Monks was tall and had an angry face. He wore a black coat. Fagin said to Monks,
"That's the boy."
Yes, it's Oliver,
said Monks. Oliver jumped up. The 2 men ran away.
Fagin! Fagin!
Cried Oliver. 2 servants came into the room and said,
What's happening here?
I just saw Fagin and another terrible man.
Oliver said. His face was white. The servants ran out into the garden. They looked for the 2 men, but did not find them.